far you have come on your own, but never alone. Through the rain and through the shine, here's your moment, it's your time. You stood tall and now you see, standing in your destiny. 100 women growing strong. 100 women where you belong. You stood tall and now you see, you have reached your destiny. Woman, woman.
As people of African descent, we offer this land recognition in solidarity with the indigenous peoples of Turtle Island in the efforts and deliberate intentions toward decolonization. As people of African descent, we acknowledge the land of Turtle Island that sustains us, express deep gratitude to its indigenous peoples, and pledge to honor our dignity and divinity that ultimately connects us all. By Kay Johnson. Welcome to 100 ABC Fireside Chats. 100 Accomplished Black Canadian Women is a bold project initiated by co-authors and co-founders, the Honorable Dr. Jean Augustine, Dr. Denise O'Neill Green, and Donna Jones Simmons. Our mission is to celebrate and archive the professional accomplishments of trailblazing Black women from all across Canada. The goal is to create an ever-expanding database available for current and future generations via print media, public and private libraries, as well as our website, which is www.100abcwomen.ca. In addition to our fireside chats on topics that matter to our communities, such as education, healthcare, entertainment, creative arts, trade union, and so much more, we offer biennial book launching galas and biannual symposiums. The co-authors and co-founders would like to take this opportunity to thank each of you for attending today's fireside chat. We know that you will find these sessions educational and inspirational. So sit back, relax, and hear from our brilliant and talented honorees.
Welcome everyone to this edition of the 100 ABC Women Fireside Chat. This is going to be an energizing, exhilarating fireside chat. We will be diving into the amazing, exciting world of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. We have 3 dynamic 100 ABC Women awardees leading the charge. They are Dr. Emily Agard, Pat Gludon, and Ola Oyebuha. Before I bring these amazing panelists to have a wonderful discussion with them, I would like you to watch keenly this amazing video about the only all-Black robotics team in Canada called Umoja 7712. This award-winning team has broken many records and are making waves not only here in Canada, but on the global stage. So please take a look.
Umoja Robotics is a team created to break barriers. Driven by our passion for STEM education, we bridge the STEM education gap between Black and non-Black youth, building future leaders and contributing to positive change in the community.
A strong principle that I learned was community. A lot of the times I was a pretty good student back then, but it was just about sort of stick to yourself and work hard, and that was the principle that I lived up until sort of joining Umoja. But I realized how strong we can be as a community. I realized that going back to my community, helping out with community care like we did on Sunday with the seniors. I am one of the co-captains on a robotics team. So we're called Umoja Robotics. Umoja is Swahili for unity. And so we're really big on community and giving back. We came here to sort of help you guys get set up with some iPads and get your email set up.
We've hosted STEM summer camps offering coding and design skills to students from diverse backgrounds in the Greater Toronto and Hamilton area. These camps provide students with valuable skills and insights into the world of technology and innovation, enabling us to foster the next generation of STEM leaders.
I wasn't really a public speaker. I would always stutter over my words. Basically, Umoja has given me kind of that foundation to be able to learn how to speak to other people.
This is Amelia from Team Umoja 7712, where we're currently at the Durham Black History Month event, where we get to show what we do here at Umoja, and interested students and parents to try and sign up, potential sponsors to just kind of know what we hope to accomplish with Umoja.
Empowering inclusive learning in TDSB special needs classrooms, inspiring environmental action, planting seeds of change in Limba, Cameroon, alumni mentorship, ensuring team sustainability, robotic environmental stewardship, cleaning up our community, dedicated mentorship, guiding our team since its inception. Last year, Umoja Robotics participated in a summer outreach program in a low-income neighborhood in Brampton. The program engaged high school students with interactive and information about FIRST and robotics, as well as taking them to University of Toronto to introduce them to STEM careers. During the 2023 winter break, our team organized a community holiday party in an underrepresented neighborhood, distributing gifts and essentials to support families in need, aiming to brighten their spirits and alleviate some of the burdens they face during the holiday season.
Allow me to recognize the hard work and achievements of students in my riding of Scarborough North over the past year. Through the African Canadian Christian Network, Black youth on the Umoja Robotics team are being celebrated off the heels of their stellar performance at provincials.
Together, we understand our impact is more than just being a team. It's a shared vision inspiring excellence, representation, and future STEM leaders, aiming to change the world through unity.
Wow, wasn't that a wonderful way to start this conversation? I am so inspired each and every day as I see our future look so bright, as I see these young people participating in robotics. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Emily Agard. She earned a Bachelor of Science honors in Life Sciences from Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario, and a PhD in Immunology from the University of Toronto. She taught biology at York University and the University of Toronto at Scarborough before joining the faculty at Toronto Metropolitan University. Currently, as the Director of Sci Exchange within the Faculty of Science at TMU, she is passionate about making some science accessible, engaging, and inclusive of all groups. So welcome, Emily. It's a pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Kathy.
So I'm ready to dive right in because as I watch these kids engage in robotics, I was just wondering, how do you support, or how can parents support children who are very talented in non-STEM fields and have no interest in science?
Okay. Well, that's a great question, and it's something I deal with a fair bit. I'd like to start by saying that I think we all have our natural scientists in us. So I think a lot of the folks who are passionate about a lot of the arts, they might not realize how much what they're doing really is science. So music, for example, that's physics in action. There's so many things that are exciting about science. If you go to places like when the Science Center existed, you see kids, they're all having fun. So I think the key thing is to show how science can relate to your everyday life. And another thing is my sort of tagline is that not everybody needs to have a career in science, but everyone should be literate in science. So, if they're going off to study different things, they don't have to necessarily be a lab scientist or some of the stereotypical things that people think of. But just don't be afraid to take a science course. Don't be afraid to explore that curiosity. Don't be afraid of science, because in the future, you're going to need to understand science and not be afraid of it and not be afraid to ask questions, because science is all around us. Think of the environment, think of COVID, all of that type of stuff. So my main passion is to really make it inclusive and engaging so that people see the relevance of science in their life and know that it's okay to go off and major in something else. I just don't think that science should be forced on people as something that's technical and hard and scary, but something that you can enjoy, something where you're asking questions, because a big part of science is all that asking questions and the teamwork. And look at that video, all of the different transferable skills that those kids were learning. That's what science is. It's not, memorizing things in textbooks and then writing your multiple choice test. There's so much more to it than that. So I think that's what's really key.
Great, thank you for that. So speaking of not everyone having a career in science, I'd like to bring our next panelist to our discussion, Olia Oyebuha. She's a multi-award-winning professional keynote speaker, leader, and entrepreneur, and founded the 7th Laurel Immigration Consulting, the first Black-owned female immigration consulting business in New Brunswick. She holds an MA in Entrepreneurship and Technology Management and a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, first class honors. She also has a postgraduate diploma in Hospitality and Tourism Management, Immigration Consulting, and Digital Marketing. She has several awards, and her CV is quite endless, and she's a very busy and engaged person. And welcome, Ola. So it's so exciting to have you, who, traditionally is a non-STEM career, but you see the value of STEM. And I was just wondering, what would you say to parents? As many parents often feel intimidated by STEM because they don't have a science or technology background. So how did you and how can you encourage other parents to overcome that mindset? And what advice would you give to other parents in the same situation?
Thank you so much for having me, and hello everyone. Thanks our audience. So for me, like I said, Kelly, the idea, and based on what Dr. Emily mentioned, it's about understanding that sciences, technology, engineering, math is part of our everyday lives, because even right from when we're evolving, from infancy, till date. Many a times, what I have, because I came from business background, I didn't really get, and from a developing country, wherein access to technology does not really represent typical learning in our classroom environment. So moving to Canada in 2014, taking an MBA with a specialization in entrepreneurship and technology management really puts me at that position where I say to myself, I am just joking with what I think I know. So it kind of behooved me to say, hey, how do I now start on learning and relearning, right? Because we are in an environment now, a developing country at that. And in order to keep up, in order to remain relevant, you have to take extra steps. So what I started then was I had to start taking YouTube lessons, around how technology can power my businesses. And then it started opening me up to certain spaces. And I also realized that as a mom, with children going into learning from Canadian environment, they needed to kind of buckle up, and having to take them through that journey, I saw myself also learning with them. So we became like young learners. And in my provinces at that time, because of lack of representation, in spaces where we expect our young boys and young girls to be. And by the time I was really reflecting on this between 2017, when I got opportunity to be hired in one of the top global IT corporation in Canada. And I was literally dealing with original equipment manufacturers. And the thing is, I need to know what I want to, deliberate in terms of closing deals. So I needed to now go back. And this is IBM. There is what we call Think 40 in IBM. So you have to take like 40 hours lessons. So it kind of helped me to start opening up my mindset. And it's all about also attitude. As parents, as young people, don't say because I have not even taken courses in sciences before, I don't have the idea. You have an opportunity. You need to just put yourself into that frame of mind that I want to learn. And that's what really helped me. And I saw myself taking that through learning with the children. Like sometimes my youngest, as at that time, I would ask him, why do you think the rain that is falling, where does it come from? To spark the curiosity. So they're like, rain. So let's read about it. So we started doing that. And with the effort that I put in place in New Brunswick through Foundation of the Black Business and Professional Network, we're able to reach out to Black Boys Code at one point in time because we didn't have that opportunity. So we connected with them and we had that opportunity to align New Brunswick with the Nova Scotia side because of region, they couldn't bring it into New Brunswick, but we're able to do that. And now they have the Black Girls School. So for me, you don't have to be in that frame as a STEM professional, but you can be an ally. You can be a champion and advocate, to look out for those people that have the skill set. And then you come together and the effort and the synergy you get with that helps things to, go into different spaces that you would not if you had kept quiet. So it's just about making effort to learn, finding opportunities, and bringing it to your community. Thank you.
Wow, thank you for that. And speaking of co-learning, because our next panelist is a leader in preparing our children to enter the world of STEM. So at this time, I'd like to welcome Pat Gludon. She has worked in banking for over 40 years and retired in 2014 as a vice president of Scotia Capital. She runs an organization called EDGE, is Empower, Develop, Grow, and Engage. I love it. Wonderful acronym. And that is what this is, a one-of-a-kind organization, and that is what it does. We empower Black youth. They empower Black youth through their many different initiatives, and they have a STEM March camp, which actually just wrapped up, and they had an awesome week of coded. So at this moment, Pat, I'd just like to welcome you to this conversation. So my question for you, Pat, is for a Black parent who does not know where to start, or a Black parent who's unsure about STEM career paths, but wants to expose their children to opportunities, what practical steps can they take today to introduce STEM to their children?
Thank you for having me. My passion is volunteering anyway. So I'll just give you a quick little, 3 years ago, I wanted to have STEM during March break camp. It was very important to me that kids come out and learn something. So I reached out to many parents from the school system around me and even a little bit further, encouraging them to enroll their children in March break camp, where they would learn about STEM, because it is our future. Most parents had no idea, but by encouraging them, and they brought their children, and the key is to allow the children to have fun while they are learning. The first time I had no one to teach them, but by the grace of God, I found a gentleman who, that's what he has been doing for like 40 years. So he is still on board with us. And it's just about talking to parents, educating them, showing them that this is the future, and encouraging them to just expose the children. And for this last March break camp, I ending the week so I was just very happy that parents brought their children for during the week. They brought them in on time. They picked them up, and on Friday we had a graduation where where we invited parents and all their children, not just the ones who did the program, where we gave out certificates. And many parents were saying, "Oh, when are you going to do this? Are you going to do this again?" So going forward, we're going to run the same camp once a month. But we are also part of First Robotics. We are new in that game, but it's something again I wanted to happen in the Malvern community. And we are doing well. We went to competition. We are building our team. So Kathy, I will be speaking to you because it is very, very important. But I think targeting the parents is the key, explaining to them that it is the future for many kids who would like to be exposed to it. Our children need is exposure. Many of them are not getting it in school. Parents like myself, my kids are grown now, I have great grandchildren. And we don't know, but we cannot stop and think, okay, I don't know. We have to know where the future is going and how important it is for exposure. Not every child is going to be a scientist, but at least know what it's all about in order to make the right decision. So that's what I do. I encourage parents.
Thank you for that. You're quite right. And I heard from all three of my panelists when you speak about the importance, for example, of co-learning, the exposure, the importance of being literate in STEM, right? Because this is our future. And speaking of the FRC, the First Robotics Canada, I am actually today at Durham College. That's where I'm moderating this amazing discussion as Team Umoja. And can you see my shirt? Team Umoja is actually participating in a district meet, right? It's just an amazing. Last year, they were third in Canada, third in the province, sixth in Canada, and they weren't to the World Championships. And I think that's amazing when you consider, for example, many of these kids were tried out for their school teams, but nobody picks the Black kids to be on the science teams, right? So that's how Umoja was formed. It was the brainchild of Cheryl Lewis, the executive director of ACCN, and it has been quite an amazing experience to witness the growth of the children. And, you know, I want to open this question for any one of my panelists to answer, because I think it is so important. And I think each of you touched on the urgency of getting our children involved in STEM. And even being a part, for example, of a robotics team is you don't only have to do coding. There's a marketing of the team. There's understanding how to raise funds. So the fundraising part, there's the mechanical part, the actual building and assembling, the electrical part. It's such a multifaceted, you know, skills that are needed to be part of a robotics team. So it's not all about coding, right? And I would just want to ask any of you if you could help parents who think that STEM is all about coding and complicated subjects. Can you share some examples of how STEM can be integrated into a child's interest? So your child may be interested in sports or fashion, music, or gaming. So I don't know who'd like to start. Ola, you can go ahead.
I can go first. And I want to say kudos and well done to what Pat is doing for, and it's really an amazing thing to know that there are organizations out there in Ontario that New Brunswick that I represent can even tap into and reach out to. We're also launching something around STEM, like a Black-led representation-driven project starting this April. It's going to be, we call it Youth Entrepreneurship Talent Accelerator Program that focuses on STEAM. So it's like an extension of STEM, which is the science, the technology, the engineering, financial literacy, arts, and mathematics. So we literally coined that word to STEAM now. So now coming back to what you just said, I feel like Pat talked about exposure, which is very critical. Like it's something that we need to pay attention to. I would also merge that with awareness, which is they're kind of similar, right? And finding your niche as parents. What is that? What interests you? Because when you take what is interesting, what you're passionate about, and you build your learning around that, you become that subject matter expert that can use how you have been able to, navigate learning or pivoting into tech in that space where you love to as a message of possibility to another mom. And I'm going to say something. When I was coming out of my full-time employment post-COVID, I had like a year before COVID, I ran into like an emergency delivery, had a premature, were in the hospital for a very long time. And I was still working. I don't have family members here. And my husband just barely left from Canada due to immigration. He couldn't come in. So I had to navigate giving birth to preemie, surgery and everything. Then COVID happened and then the school shut down. And I was left with the premature baby going through, growth transformation. And I had two other school age kids with competing priorities that I needed to teach at home while working. So coming out of COVID, I was already like a human that really needed to take a break. Then I moved into my self-employment. I knew self-employment is going to be tough, but I looked at what can I do? What do I love to do naturally? And this is this business. I don't have the knowledge to navigate my website management. I don't have ABC. Then I started checking, I started searching, I started exposing myself to ideas. Then I found Jelly Academy. Jelly Academy digital analytics program. I was like, oh, what can I do? Thankfully, they had scholarship for I think BIPOC. So I took on that scholarship and I quickly enrolled in the digital marketing program. The knowledge I got from that is what I used to power my business. Seventh L'Oreal, I designed my logo myself. The flowers you see there, there are 7 digits. So I did that myself. I put that out there. The search engine optimization, everything I did for my business, the graphics design and all of the things you see on Seventh L'Oreal in immigration today, I envision and I put them to life. So what that does is it kind of saved me the cost of having to go hire ABC. Like right now, the mobile app I started, I envision it through the knowledge that I picked up from IBM. So all of those things is more like what is all of this? It's still within my passion. It's still within my comfort zone. I didn't have to say, oh, I want to go and break into coding. I want to go and break into software. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I am evolving around the environment that I can wake up to. I speak the language, and then I'm trying to learn how I can use technology to grow. And my children, they're saying that. Right now, my youngest baby is 7. The way he navigates and he has questions around tech and all that is scary, and I'm happy because he has seen the mom navigating and they tell me, Mom, we love what you're doing, you inspire us. So we mom, sisters, brothers, we are also ambassador. The kids are watching us. That is the only way we can educate them outside the space of where their voices are silenced, which could be schools, which could be societies and all of that. So yeah, that's my suggestion. Find awareness, exposure, and find your niche. Then it helps.
Thank you. That was amazing. So, Emily, so I probably would like to direct my next question to you, because what are some of the ways that you have personally helped youth to explore science?
Okay, so my team at Toronto Metropolitan University, it's called Sci Exchange, and we are all about making science engaging and accessible to everyone, not just youth. So we run a lot of summer camps. We have community partners we work with, etc. One of the areas that I work with particularly is this program called Technovation. It's geared for girls age 8 to 18 who think of some problem that they want to solve. This is a global program. They think of a problem that they want to solve that tech can solve, and they make an app. They come up with a business plan. They have to think of the marketing. They have to come up with a pitch. So it's building on what a lot of what we were talking about before, what you were saying with First Robotics, how there are different aspects to the project. And what is really nice about it is that they're not just learning the technical skills or the business skills. They are learning the teamwork. They're learning how to fine tune and troubleshoot. And we actually make it a very safe environment for them to fail, because we tell them, you are going to be trying things that aren't going to work, and that's okay. We really want them to get used to the idea of persevering and learning from their mistakes, and how it's fine to try things that aren't working, or at the end when they have to pitch everything, if they're not finished everything that they thought that they wanted to do, they could always talk about where they could go later. So in everything that we do, it goes back to what I was saying before. It really is about making the science relatable to what they're doing, something that's passionate for them, so that they're really enjoying it and it's not a chore. So that's what I could go on about this, but I don't want to use up all of the time. But that's one of the things. And also, when you were talking about, the idea of connecting science to other things that kids might be interested in, sports. When we're working with kids that are very much interested in sports, because one of the camps that we did was a science, engineering, and sports camp all together. Like sports, it's a lot of anatomy and physiology in there. So, if you know how your muscles are working, you know how to train better, you know how to recover better. Nutrition, that's a whole lot of biochemistry and biology there. So they get to understand that all of these things that are related to science are related to what they're doing as well. And their talent can help scientists. So those who are artists, gosh, scientists have a lot of need for working with graphic artists. Like, if they're trying to describe science for the general public, they might need illustrators. They need people with those art skills. So really the underlying thing is making things engaging, involved, make it fun, and having people connect their skills and showing how, that interdisciplinary approach really works. And it's something that works for young kids and older kids. And by older kids, I mean, anyone.
Kids at heart.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And thank you for that. And, you mentioned the importance of the soft skills, like collaborations, like continual learning, getting out of your comfort zone and not being afraid to make mistakes. And these are really important life skills that are important. You learn them being part of a robotics team, you learn them when you're doing technology, because you have to be okay with, doing things is not working exactly how you want it, and tweaking and pivoting until you get it right. And I think that's really important. And, when I think of Black women in particular in STEM, I think of Marion Crope, for example, who has over 200 patents. She's in the National Inventors Hall of Fame. She is credited for VoIP technology. So that's and a lot of us needed that during COVID. It is the voice over internet protocol. That's how, we are on Zoom, Skype, these technologies. It was thanks to a Black mathematician. You have Dr. Gladys Wells, whose invention helped improve the GPS, right? And made it GPS functional, really. You have Harriet Brooks, the first Canadian woman, Black or any other color, nuclear physicist, right? And Black women have been leading the way in STEM, yet still, when you think of STEM, you don't think of Black women. And Pat has this passion for STEM. And I'm going to ask her this next question, because I think it's so important. I think representation important, but I'm going to ask you, Pat, why do you think it's important to have representation in STEM so that Black children in Canada can see themselves reflected? What challenges do Black moms face in encouraging their kids into STEM, and how can you address them?
I think the challenge they face is lack of knowledge. Many of them do not understand the changes that's happening in this world, I believe. I think like knowledge, being aware, understanding that our children need to be a part of this change that's happening. So for me, it's about helping the parents to understand. Because I have seen parents say, oh, my child is shy. Oh, my child is this. And my goal is to allow them to give the child the experience and having that child make a choice. Many parents, they choose for their children. They perpetuate behaviors that is not good for the child's future. We say the child is shy, yes, but shyness does not, you don't have to just not have an experience because you're shy. By having experiences, you might be able to break out of your shell. So for me, my whole idea is about encouraging and helping parents to help their children navigate this world. And as Black people, I'm not seeing a representation. I was on a trade floor at Scotiabank for 40 years. I did not see us. There was technology, there were all different areas. I did not see us. It bothers me. It bothered me then, it's bothering me today. When we had no money for our STEM program this year, there was no funding. I said, we are going to have STEM this March break. I made it happen. Some of our friends have more resources. Ask them to give a little. And every child, we had enough food, we had enough of everything, because our children was not going to not have an opportunity this March break. We started off with 40 kids in 1 week. I went out to all the schools, sent messages to all the parents. Some parents took their kids out after. That's the other thing. We need to do more. We cannot say that's enough. One parent told me, oh, my son had a great time. He was having a good time, but he just doesn't want to come. That's not an excuse. He had a great time. He was learning, but he doesn't want to come. You need to tell him and encourage him to continue for that week. So there's so much that has to be done, but it starts with us educating the parents in order for them to give their children the opportunity. We must educate the parents.
And thank you for that. And I'm going to ask each of the panelists, because you spoke about knowledge. So I'm going to say the same question for you, Ola. Why do you think representation in STEM is so important for Black children in Canada? And what challenges do Black moms face in encouraging their kids in STEM? And how can we address them?
So much. I also want to speak from the lens of being an immigrant myself, because I am still very much new in Canada. So one thing I would say is parents struggle with, time. We immigrant parent, let me bring the perspective of immigrant parent, let me not generalize. So immigrant parent that just arrived Canada, and as also an immigration consultant who also understands the challenges we struggled with as immigrants, and that the government is still trying to support through settlement organizations. I noticed that an immigrant person that comes under economic immigration program route has one goal to achieve, which is to settle, to be a contributor, to support the economic GDP, just because the population, we have a lot of aging population. So this person needs to, first of all, find a way to settle down, get a job, to pay the bills, to do all of those things, right? And in the course of finding a job, we all know the realities, right? People will roll out the resumes and all of that. And some of these programs are even paid. It could be like after schools and all of that. Sometimes they are unable to afford that. And even if they are able to, the wait list, and I'm speaking from, again, my region now, the wait list might, in there such parents, to be able to put the kids there. And if they have to leave work, they don't have a family member that can go help them take the kids to the program and all of those things. So they just realize, you know what? Let me just focus on trying to pay the bills and get us by, right? And as you notice, time doesn't wait for anybody. Before you know it, some kids, exactly. So time makes some of the opportunity to have to prevent the Black representation in some of these spaces. That's one. Number two, also, I also see some parents from some communities that I am used to. They try to compare another person's children with their own children. And oftentimes they use that kind of comparison to discourage their own children from finding their purpose, from finding what they love to do, and then helping them and guiding them. All they see, oh, my friend's son knows how to code. In fact, he has developed something. What do you even, and again, the kind of some parents, the words, some of their words also discourages their children's self-esteem, right? And things like that also gets the children to be withdrawn, to say, after all, because if the parents don't even believe in that child, it goes a long way. And in my program that and this is the reason I even went into the education space, to even understand what goes on in the classroom, so that when my children, they are going out in the morning, with my knowledge of going into education now and how the theory of mind plays out, then I can use that to guide my children, because I'm taking a program, graduates in education now. I need to know, I need to be part of their journey. I need to be able to encourage them to say, hey, even if the curriculum is not talking about ABC, you got me. I'm a representation, So we parents also, we need to be that voice, the voice that our children takes out through our door, so that when they get into the space that people tells them you cannot do this, your voice will tell them, no, my mom said this, my father said this, I can do it. So parents, please, let's do that. Representation, yes, we see a lot of high rate of crime and all of that. And if there is an adage that says an idle hand is the devil's workshop, if we as parents can help from the home setting, let's start teaching our children. Go on YouTube, find, like at home, I get my boys, because I have all boys, and I grew up in a culture where my parents taught my brother how to pound yam. We do all of those things, so nobody is going to say, oh, I'm going to get married, my woman will do this for me. No, everybody has to do it. So here at home too, we try to do counting. When we buy Scotch bonnet, we count it. We do the deduction from the kitchen. You learn about things like that. So for me, let's start from the home. Even if we can't get after school that is ready to take us, or we don't have the money, we can try. And with that, you start building the confidence, and your boys can also start discovering things and coding. And Black Boys Code, there is, again, Pat's just started a program. Let's reach out. I am going to be reaching out to Pat. I'm going to be checking with Dr. Emily. What can you do for us in New Brunswick? We're starting the program in April now. We've not gotten any funding, but I'm saying to my team, we will do this. We've walked this 5-year journey. No funding. I have run around. I've written grants. I've raised over $150,000. Even if there's not going to be money this year, we will find the money, because I have faith and I know we'll do it. So I'm coming to you all, ladies, for you to help us. Thank you.
Absolutely. So you spoke about time, but you also indirectly spoke about the importance of networking. So I'm actually now going to ask the same question to you, Dr. Emily, and I'll read it again. Why do you think representation in STEM is so important for Black children in Canada? And what challenges do Black moms face in encouraging their kids in STEM, and how can we address them?
I can speak more to the first part because I'm not a parent,
Right.
but I work with a lot of parents. But I'm all about the see it, be it. Like, if you see it, you believe you can be it, because there will be people who tell you that you can't do it. And I have a cute little story that's very special to me, because my pediatric dentist is Dr. Winston Smith. And when my mother, she's a Jamaican-born dentist. And when my mother booked it, it was Dr. Smith. We didn't know who she was. And it turned out she was a Black woman. And I was about 4 or 5 years old. I didn't stop and think, oh, wow, my dentist is Black. Like, that wasn't like on my mind or anything. But it was normalizing the process, normalizing the idea that a dentist can be Black. So if I had decided later on that I wanted to be a dentist, and someone put me inside and said, oh, you little Black girl, you can't be a dentist, I'd be like, no, 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 no. My dentist was Black. So It's not even something that has to be actively, oh, let me sign up my kids with, in this special program that's all about that. Even just having these normalized situations, like just normalizing everything. So I really like that. And when it comes to the parents, just, exposing them to situations where Black folks in STEM are there. It's not, we're not making a big deal about it because we belong there and we know that we are excelling there. I'm going to put a little plug out. There's a Canadian Black Scientist Network. It's a few years old now. Started up by brilliant Black women like Madian Andrade and Juliet Daniels, and they provide all sorts of mentorship opportunities, and it's something that parents who are looking for ways to engage their kids into science, Black-led science, that's something really, really to look out for. So the Canadian Black Scientist Network, CBSN, something to look out for. So there are lots of opportunities. My team at Sci Exchange as well, we have a lot of programs that we run. Usually there's no cost to them. So lots of opportunities out there.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think it's important for parents to seek out opportunities to expose children to Black excellence and Black scientists, because you're not getting it in the mainstream media, right? So it's so important to actively make sure that you normalize, as you say, Emily, normalize seeing a Black dentist or a Black physician, right? A Black engineer. And I think, the more we do that, also, I think it's also important about networking, as you said, Ola. Again, reaching out, learning, why reinvent the wheel, right? Supporting each other. Because when I got so excited when I saw the flyer and learned about the work Pat was doing. So, on my to-do list, next week we are going to connect, right? And I think exchanging ideas, working together, you mentioned knowledge, Pat. I think also knowledge, if parents don't know, so it's also as parents, we have to actively seek out, right, knowledge and seek out opportunities for children. And speaking of seeing it and being it, I look at you three ladies and three different areas in terms of your career. And I was just wondering the pathway, somehow, even though you started out in different careers, it all sort of led back to the STEM field. Now, Emily, I'll start with you because Dr. Emily, you are truly a scientist, right? So we see how your journey started and how you end up where you were, and then I would speak with the other panelists in terms of, how their journey trajectory ended up in the STEM field.
Okay, sure. First of all, I also put a little link for the Black Scientist Network in the chat for anyone who's interested. My journey, I planned career-wise to be a lawyer. That was my first serious thing. I think I went through I want to be a firefighter stage. I want to be a farmer stage, that type of thing. I was influenced by our various different school trips. But my dad was a lawyer, my mom was a teacher, and actually they're the ones who taught me the scientific method. They weren't scientists, they were from the humanities. And I had planned right up until undergrad to go to law school. I thought, we'd be AGARD and AGARD one day with my dad. But I took science for fun, which should have been a clue. And I also think that's kind of interesting because I was interested in science, I was taking science, but I didn't think of a science career. And then it wasn't until I took immunology, one course in immunology, and then I had more questions. So then I took another course in immunology. And I'm like, okay, this is the first time that I finished a course with more questions than answers, because the immune system is just so intricate. So then I decided to go to graduate school. I still didn't think that I was necessarily going to have a career in science. I'm here going to U of T to do my PhD in immunology, and I still hadn't decided that I'd end up in a career. All I knew is that I wanted to learn more immunology. That's seriously how it was. And then while I was at U of T, I TA'd, and then I liked the teaching side. And then when I got my first job at York, I was doing outreach with youth in the Dane and Finch community. And that's how things just evolved for me. And then when I went to, now it's TMU, but it was Ryerson at the time, they were interested in me partly because of all of the community engagement that I had been doing. So then I got the science job at then Ryerson, and then I was doing outreach on the side, and then the outreach grew. And then once we had a faculty of science, our inaugural dean, Dr. Imogen Ko, put the resources into starting off this this center that I'm in, which is now called Sci Exchange after various different market research and branding. So now this is what I do. I'm running a group that's all about science outreach, and I still get to teach, and that's how things evolve. And when I speak to youth, I tell them, you know, follow your dreams, follow your passions, and the journey is probably not going to be linear. You're probably going to pick up things along the way, try things out that didn't work, but just really follow. It sounds cliche, follow your passions, but it actually works. It actually works. Just be prepared to work hard, but it ends up working. And now I'd say that I'm in my dream job where I have my team that I can hire, and we get to do a lot of stuff that we like.
Great. Thank you for that. And I remember reading your bio, Pat, and being intrigued, because when I think of, you know, Scotia Capital and like people on the floor trading, you see all these movies with people waving papers and running and screaming and
Crazy.
pressures bursting and sweating, and you think of white men, right? And I was like, wow, I was so intrigued by your career. So I'm just wondering how, you know, if you could tell us a bit about your path and how you ended up, you know, being on the floor and then to STEM.
Well, I was born in Trinidad, a family of 7. We had 4 girls and 3 boys. So we had beautiful clothing, but the 2 girls' dresses were the same, and my sister and myself dresses were the same. And I said, I am no twin. So I decided to sew, and I wanted to be a designer. And I was 12 years old when my father bought me a Singer sewing machine. And I learned to sew, and I wanted to be a designer. I went to New York, I did fashion design, and I came to Canada. Could not find a job. And because back then there were no like design, you know, studios and stuff like that. This is a long time ago. So one day I decided to go and to look for a job, any job, until I could, you know, embark on my career. I went to the bank. The woman said, back then you could not wear pants to work. She says, but your outfit looks so good, I'm sending you. I went, I got the job, and I went through different areas. And I used to do stock trading also, and not really having experience, but I learned, you know, we can learn almost any job, right? So, and then when the bank outsourced that, this man who managed the department, I was a little bit scared because the bank had a trading table. It was very small. It was like 8 people, and they were all white people. And I said, oh my God, there was one Chinese girl. And I'm like, oh my God. He said, I want you to go over there. And I said, I was really a little bit apprehensive. He said to me, if I think you can, you can. And it never stopped me since, because if he thought I could, of course I could. And then the bank bought McLeod, and we had a whole floor. And yes, it was crazy. I managed the commercial retail money market. I helped raise funds to build the Trump Tower. Like, it was just amazing and exciting. So I stayed, I progressed, and then I ended up on the floor for like the last 10, 15 years of my banking career. But the one thing I learned being in that environment, it was a very lucrative environment where people made a lot of money. My goal was to take their money, bring it back to my community. So I did many fundraising ideas. I was on the board of EVA's. I don't know if you know EVA's initiative. For 12 years, I ran an auction. At the end, I think we raised over $1.5 million with Scotia as the sponsor. I felt in my heart that my community had worked to make other people rich. So it was my goal to bring as much money from there into my community. And I did many fundraising ideas, many crazy fundraising ideas and the money came back to my community. I also started Edge, Empowered. Well, back then it wasn't Edge, but it was an organization that helped and give kids the tools necessary to just be the best person that they can. And today it's now called Edge. We run workshops in dining etiquette, policy in the community, adolescent health, entrepreneurship. We have 14 workshops. We take the kids on a weekend retreat at a university. We have a career panel. What I'm saying, I'd like you guys to look at Edge, Empower, Develop, Grow, and Engage, or edgeprogram.net. There is nobody that does it like we do for Black youth. I am very proud of that. It's only you have to be Black. You could be biracial, which means you have a drop of Black blood in you. And our children go off to be the best that they can be. They get all the tools. That weekend retreat, because many of our children think we don't belong in university, we cannot go. But by having them spend that weekend, they go in on Friday and they come out on a Sunday. And yes, I can work with you, Ola, to bring Edge to your city. Because what happens? Our kids come in and I say shaky because they lack confidence. Nobody tells them that they are wonderful and that they are great. But when they leave, their heads are held high. They go off to become almost anything that they can be. Our youth that go through the program succeed. They succeed. They study medicine. They do anything because they know they can.
Absolutely.
So it was kind of and during that time, I also made beautiful things. I made wedding dresses. So although I wasn't working in that field, I was able to do the thing that I was passionate about. But all through my career, I was always passionate about my community. I live in Scarborough. When everybody was moving out, I said, I'm going to stay and fight for my people. I've been in this house for 40 years and I'm fighting.
Wow.
I am going to continue the fight to make my people great because we are brilliant. We just don't know it sometimes.
Absolutely. And we need reminders of that.
Yes.
I think it's so inspired. Thank you so much for that. And Ola, I know you touched on a bit about your journey, but if you can take us from, your little girl self to how you ended up, being an entrepreneur and in STEM.
Thank you. So I just really want to say something, and it's like also a call to parents, mentor figure to look at evolution, where you look at nature and nurture perspective, right? It goes a long way in building the confidence that Pat mentioned, because when we give our youth, the Black youth, we're facing a lot of things. Even you elders, when I say elders, I see Pat as somebody that is old enough to be my mom. So you have this,
75.
you see, so you're my mom, right? So so you had your stories. We also, I'm over 40. I have my story to talk about and all of that. But one thing that has made me to sit in rooms where I say, I am confident to say, this is what I know, this is what I'm capable of, this is what needs to happen for my people, is that confidence that my father, God rest his soul, it was laid to rest some 3 months ago, was that confidence that he built with stories, with books. You know, using his journey as one of the first Nigerian who started the what we call PABX. That is more like the analog side of the VoIP, the Voice over Internet Protocol that you talked about right now. My father was one of those that worked with Post and Telegraphs, in Nigeria as at that time to bring about telecommunications and telephone and all of that. And what he did then was for every innovation that he came up with, he always have a shelf where he puts those things. So we grew up in a home where we see all those things like the cables, the cord and every of those things. And when you touch it, my father will have a story to tell you about what happened when we did this and when we did. And I, being the youngest, that he calls me his mom, I'm always around my dad. I really want to learn. And so I saw myself going to sites. When they say this is a men's territory, you can't go there. I go with my dad to site. I helped him to draw the cable. He tells me stories, measure these, use your hand to measure in the olden days. So all of those things started sparking the curiosity. Like I started having that confidence that if my father could do this, even when technology and when, we had an history of colonization and all of that, with Britain, and he could still do this. My father also was one of those that installed, he had this first amplifier or so installed in Turin Station in UK. So if he could do that, I was always telling myself, I can do this. And the story of IBM Selective typewriter, the 1948, was one of the things that I discussed with my interviewer that got me the IBM job, because the man was really excited about the story. I talked about how my dad said this, and I told my dad, one day I'm going to work in IBM. And this was like, I didn't even know what I was doing. And years later, this was in Nigeria. I don't even know what I was saying. And I found myself years later sitting in front of a panel, getting interviewed. And when I got the IBM job, my father, after my husband was the first person to say, Daddy, I finally got the IBM job. So you see the essence of how I have evolved from that young girl through the nature and the nurture perspective. Parents, we have a work to do. We need to please, that's just the story I want to share, because with that confidence, when I look back again, I remember when I'm in spaces where men, like in the course of my advocacy for my community, I've stayed in rooms where men try to silence me in terms of saying that, I don't know what I'm doing. In fact, I'm just like literally getting out of like some depression that accompanies some instances where I've stood for my community, but that confidence I didn't build it today. It was from my father. And I would have also been a science student. I just veered. My elder brother went into science, my sisters. So being the fourth person, I like to do things differently. So I said, I'm not going, but I will still be part of science world. So my elder brother is into electrical and electronics. I still call him from time to time to learn some things that I know that could help my own business. My elder brother was into civil engineering construction. Because I took interest, my first job in Nigeria after out of Polytechnic, I was still like very young, 2003, was in a civil engineering construction company as a marketer. I thrived because I had the backing of my father, my brothers in the home. And I also, through my effort, I got a gig for my company with Dangote as at that time when he was building one of his properties in Kogi, Obajana Cement factory. Because of my curiosity, I went in there to pitch as a marketing intern because I knew the ropes, I knew the measurements. They were like, the man said, you're going to see Dangote. And I saw Dangote then. So what I'm saying is when you have the confidence in you, nothing can take your shine. The sky is just the starting point. And it comes back to us parents. What are we doing to discover the talent, to know that you have a gifted child that you cannot compare with the other child? That you just have to take every one of them one at a time, step by step, and help them shine in different ways. So yeah, that's my childhood story and how it has built my confidence. And here I am
Wow.
today. Thank you.
No, thank you for sharing. It's like, wow, I could listen to all three of you all evening. Well, all good things must come to an end. But before we go, I'd like to ask a final question to each of you. So, as you and as listen to your journeys, all three of you, And all three of you mentioned the importance in your evolution of following your dream and your passion. So, what would you say? And Ola, I'll start with you. What would you say to your little 6-year-old self, right? And you are trying to encourage your 6-year-old self uh, to push through and follow your dreams that's going to lead you into STEM? What would you say to your 6-year-old self?
Keep an open mind. Keeping an open mind helps the mind to develop, and have the flexibility to expand. Because while you keep an open mind, we live in phases. So to my 6-year-old self, I'll just say explore, learn to understand that even if a parent is telling me to be a medical doctor, I can still be a medical doctor and still pursue other interests, because we also find some parents saying this is a legacy profession, you must do this or you have to do this. So if I'm a 6-year-old person that I find myself in that space, I will still tell myself, yeah, if my parent is asking me to do this, I will do it, but I would not miss the opportunity to learn other things as I move along the way, because it helped me, it's still helping me. And entrepreneurship actually started when my mom named her first business after me. So that also sparked the curiosity. I didn't know I was going to do entrepreneurship until 30 years later when I found myself in Canada. So you can face something, but be sure to learn other things and build a community that also understands who you are and takes steps to help you build your potential and nurture your talent. Because when that is missing, sometimes some people get it wrong. So nurturing of talents, discovering those talents, nurturing them. And that's what Pat is doing also, making sure that they bring people into this space. 40 to start the first program with 40 attendees is honestly, kudos to you, Pat. Well done. Yeah, thanks.
And Emily, my question is to you now. So I'm a little older. I'm now 10 years old. What are you going to say to your
Oh man,
10-year-old?
I was all ready to tell my 6-year-old self. So
Oh, yeah.
10 years old, that's grade 5. Yeah, it's along the same sort of ideas. Like, don't be afraid to try. Don't be so hard on yourself. Oh, I was very hard on myself because I just, that person, you got 99 on something. Where did that 1% go? I was so hard on myself. So not stress out too much. Seek help when you need it, because I was all about being independent. And I mean, that did get me somewhere, but I think, yeah, not be so hard on myself. Seek help and just, if things don't work out, you'll land on your feet. Just keep on persevering. It's okay to make mistakes. And if something doesn't work out, something around the corner might be even better. So I think that is what I probably would have been saying. Yeah.
Thank you. And now, Pat, I'm now starting high school. I'm in grade 9. I'm about 14. Well, I should have said 11 for you, Emily. You should have been in middle school, but that was great advice for a middle schooler. And now in high school. What advice?
Okay, what advice would I give? For me, I've always been kind of a free spirit. I think my father spoiled me. He allowed me to believe that I can just do whatever. So I wasn't really inhibited in many ways. So I would just say to my 14-year-old self, go girl, just continue to be you. But along the way, continue to be passionate about others. Continue to really reach out for others, and don't be the type of person who only look after your own self. And that's who I've always been. I look out for others, and be yourself. And the idea of, I have to disagree a little bit with all I think you said, be what your parents ask you to be. I say to my age group, sorry, no. do what we are all born with gifts. Do what is inside of you, what you're passionate about, because at the end of the day, you don't want to be going to work and it feels like work. If you're doing what your daddy or mommy wants you to be, you're not being your authentic self. So find within yourself what is your passion and do it well.
Great. Thank you so much for that advice. And, you know, I giggled when you said, Ola, the devil find works for idle hands. So I'm going to say another expression. Funny how time flies when you're having fun. And Dr. Emily Agard, Pat Gludon, and Ola Onibuka, it has been an absolute pleasure moderating this amazing discussion with you amazing women. I have always, you know, tried to make sure I learn something new, and I've come away with 3 gems. And I just want to remind the audience that have been listening that I want you to remember the wisdom of these 3 amazing ladies. And remember to, as parents, it's important to get involved, to network, and never, never, never give up. And remember, it's important for our children to be encouraged to follow their dreams. And next week, we will feature the topic of Black women in leadership in nonprofits. The nonprofit sector economic contribution continues to gain recognition. This phase contributes to why Black women in senior leadership roles in these organizations are facing greater pressures. We are being challenged when we seek the compensation we deserve and getting pushback on our leadership styles. Let's listen in as will be discussed how Black women will continue to hold seats and, most importantly, our wellness. So it's a fascinating topic, and we'll have with us Karine Cohen Sanchez, Lavinia Latham, Natasha Ferguson, and Rosemary Powell. So please join us next week for this amazing opportunity. And thank you all. Thank you, ladies. It has been my absolute pleasure, and I look forward to connecting with you. We have work to do. Thank you very much.
Look how far you have come on your own, but never alone.